It's good to remind the listeners that Weekly Don is wrong.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host tonight, Matt Rogers, and I am with the D-O-N, Don. What is up, Don?
Yo, man.
Yo. All right. So me and Don are filming. Jeez.
We're filming.
Camera. Oh, my God. We're not. We are recording because we have faces for radio, for sure. We are recording part 2 of our week 3 podcast. Probably, hopefully, if you listen to part 1, if you're just listening to part 2, you're kind of weird. I don't get why you would do that. But me and Don are just going to jump right into it. Before we do that, though, I want to give a shout out to BenchBoss. You know them as ViewPick, but they have a brand new name, and it's BenchBoss, and it's a sweet name because alliteration is sweet. They are still the revolutionary app that allows you to play fantasy football live while watching the game on TV. You can predict the plays, the result of the play, and literally play fantasy football in real time. So you can sign up for the beta version now by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/benchboss. Also, do it. Download the Let's Talk Fantasy Football app on iOS and Android, and feel free to give us an iTunes review. We really want them. We're desperate for any sort of validation or gratification or any nice words that you have, even bad words. Like, I would really love a review that says that Don really sucks and that Vinny is the most annoying person that you've ever known, sort of shit, right? No, not good on that. Well, review us. Listen to our stuff, review us, tell us what you think.
Listen, man, check the reviews. They have only good stuff to say about the DON.
That's true. Everybody loves the DON. I even love the DON, but I never say it to your face. I just carve it into my wall in blood, pretty much, privately, because I can never give you the satisfaction. But yeah, please, we want to make this better for you guys, and we love your feedback. So keep giving us questions. We love answering them, and hopefully we help you out. So Don and I covered the first half of the week 1 games on the docket here. We're going to jump right back into to the games here. We're going to get some reader questions at the end, and let's get right to it, Don. We're going to go to Atlanta Falcons at Detroit Lions. The Atlanta Falcons are a 3-point favorite here. Let's roll right into the Falcons, Don. Matt Ryan has looked pretty good as of late. We saw them beat our Packers, which is really depressing last week. Ryan is looking like the quarterback one you drafted him as, but let's get into that passing game. We don't really have to talk about Julio, right? Play Julio.
Well, one thing I do want to say about it, Matt Ryan, is he is passing well, but he's not getting the touchdowns that you want. So he's not even in the top 10 right now. So that's just something to look out for, because it seems like they like to, pound the ball in on the red zone between Freeman and Coleman. So they can actually vulture some touchdowns away from Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right in pointing that out, but I will say the fact that the offense looks good and that Matt Ryan has not looked bad or thrown like a bunch of interceptions or anything like that means that you got to keep rolling him out as the quarterback one that you drafted him as.
I agree.
That's a good point, though, because if, you took him in like the 4th or 5th round, which some people did, it's not great, but you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, with that being said, like if you're getting frustrated with him, you should probably still play him this week.
Absolutely. There's been no negatives about his game. That running game is great, and you should have known that when you drafted him.
Right.
You're definitely right, Don, but, quarterback, right?
Yeah, I'm always right.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
So let's get into this passing game. We don't really have to say anything about Julio, right? You want to play Julio.
Yeah.
But let's talk about right? I mean, all right. So let's talk about Mohamed Sanu for a little bit. Didn't get a lot of love preseason. Not necessarily rightfully so, but kind of rightfully so. But he's getting the same snap share as Julio, and he's been targeted a shit ton. At this matchup at Detroit, what are your thoughts on throwing him in the lineup? Because I think Taylor Gabriel going into the year was drafted a lot more than he was. Definitely. And Mohamed Sanu is a way better value.
Yeah, I think, hindsight, I don't even know why we didn't think of that. Sanu is probably the better player overall, but Sanu's definitely that number 2, and I'll go as to say that he'll get a touchdown before Julio this week.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks that way. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a better play, but I think the Taylor Gabriel love came from the fact that, since the Roddy White, Julio Jones days, when Roddy White was still relevant, the secondary receiver for the Falcons has always been kind of a mystery, even at the end of Roddy White's career.
Right.
So I think people sort of factored in the big play potential by Taylor Gabriel, which really hasn't happened.
Right.
And Sanu has sort of looked like a pretty serviceable receiver too. I think that he's a very high-end wide receiver 4.
That's fair.
Going into this week, I think you're right that it's very possible he catches a touchdown. He falls into that like probably flex-worthy range if you have to. Not as valuable in a PPR necessarily, but I don't think that's actually stupid to say because it's not really here nor there, his value in that situation. He's averaging the same sort of, 6-catch situation that goes on. So yeah, I like Sanu going into that with the rest of the wide receivers over in Atlanta. I think we can both agree we don't have to play them, right?
Right.
So let's get into let's talk about the other pass catcher there, Austin Hooper. We've talked a lot on the last podcast about some tight end streamers and tight end roulette. In the beginning of the year, preseason, I would say Austin Hooper was at the top of that list. Where do you put him now, and more specifically this week?
Yeah, against Detroit. First week, not so good the second week. I think I'm rolling out like a Kobe Fleener or maybe even a Jared Cook over Hooper this week.
Yeah, I'm not completely against that. I would prefer both of those guys actually over him over Hooper this week. The reason why is 4 targets all year.
Yeah.
Like, don't buy into that big 80-plus yard catch or whatever the hell it was on that one play and shit like that. Matt Ryan and the Falcons have been cruising in both their games so far, and Austin Hooper has only gotten 4 targets. To me, when I'm looking at a tight end streamer or a tight end, like low tight end 1, I'm looking for opportunity over big play potential, because how many tight ends really have big play potential unless they're drafted as a top 5 tight end? I don't like it. The fact that their offense has been so great and has only targeted him 4 times when Matt Ryan is thrown for like 300, 400 yards. The Lions are bad against the tight end. Again, that we saw last year, they got roasted by every single tight end they played, and they gave that big touchdown not a big touchdown, but a touchdown to Evan Ingram this last week on Monday Night Football. It was more of a blown coverage situation. I don't like it. I think there's a lot of better tight ends that you can play this week.
Definitely. I'm not playing him.
So as far as the running game, the only really, really questionable guy, you want to throw Freeman out there, obviously. Tevin Coleman, what are your thoughts on him? He's still rolling out that same complimentary role that we saw last year. It's a little less effective than it was. Granted, last year he was scoring a touchdown like every single game on big plays. But how do you feel about Tevin Coleman?
Yeah, maybe in a deeper league, I'm cool with playing him. I think he's a very low-end RB3. I think he's going to give you maybe like 50 yards total, and you're hoping that he gets a touchdown.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary of what to expect from him. He's certainly not a bad play, especially logically. But with all the guys that Don and I and Vinny and Shrek and Walsh and everybody on the last podcast talked about of these young running backs like Chris Carson or even Alvin Kamara, guys like that, I think that there's higher ceilings elsewhere on the waivers that, like, if you're in a situation where you have to start Tevin Coleman, you've probably gone to the waivers to try and fix your running back scenario, and there's probably better plays there than that, right? I mean, against the Packers where they put up 40-plus points, it wasn't 40-plus points, like 31, but they put up points quick. He wasn't really involved in that.
No.
So I kind of agree. I'd put him at I'd say it exactly like you did, like a low-end running back 3.
Yep.
Anything else on the Falcons you got there before we roll over to the Lions?
No, we can go right over through.
All right, let's go right in. Let's talk about Eric Ebron first. This podcast has always loved Eric Ebron. He finally got his touchdown that was only 5 targets last week. What do you think about Ebron?
I think Ebron's going to be hit or miss this year. I think he's someone that I'm going to roll out even over like a Fleener Cook. I think he's still a startable, not just a streamable tight end. He did have a bunch of targets against Giants last week. So I think this will be a good test to see where he's at this week. A dead week 1 against Arizona. We'll kind of see if he still keeps up with the 5 or plus more targets against Atlanta.
I again, as much as it pains me to agree with Don consistently, but I agree with that analysis. I think that he's better than that. He's a low-end tight end one. I would temper – if you're playing him based off what happened last week, I would temper those expectations of, that he's going to score a touchdown necessarily. But I kind of – what Don was saying, I feel like, right, tell me if I'm right, that you're like – I think that there's a lot of weeks where Ebron could get 15 points. There's a lot of weeks where Ebron's going to get 3 points.
Yep.
I would pick him over those guys like Jared Cook and Kobe Fleener because I think that he's the most skilled tight end out of those guys. But yeah, I'm going to echo what Don said, and I'm going to say that definitely playable, but don't think that this is going to be a consistent, 60 yards and a touchdown thing for him.
Yeah, I think you should just echo everything I said.
Yeah, I'm never going to do that. And when I do, I'm going to specifically state it so people know that it's not a recurring theme. I'm going to be like, I'm specifically agreeing with Don on only this, and it ends after my sentence. But yeah, for this moment, I'm going to agree with Don. So as far as let's go with the other pass catchers here on the Lions, Don. We saw Marvin Jones get that touchdown and Kenny Golladay come back to earth with pretty much nothing. So hopefully you didn't play him. But between those two and Golden Tate, Don, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Marvin Jones and Golden Tate are starters. Kenny Golladay, you got to keep on your bench. I know that he's probably one of the hottest waiver pickups after week 1. I think he's going to be a big boomer bust. The main go-to guys are going to be Marvin Jones and Golden Tate.
Yeah, Kenny Golladay is definitely a guy that shouldn't be seeing your lineup. Another thing I'll say is I don't really think Marvin Jones yet, too. I mean, he got 5 targets, 1 touchdown, 1 catch that was that touchdown. It was a pretty sweet touchdown. But I think there's a lot of leagues where he's not even very owned. And even if he is, don't throw him in your lineup based on that right there. I mean, this should be a shootout, and I wouldn't be surprised if he caught a touchdown. But have some better options, I hope, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, he's low on yardage, but I think that he's going to be someone that Stafford's going to be keeping to look at in the red zone. So it's up to you. He's not someone they need to throw in right away. He's definitely like a wide receiver 3 right now, but he's someone I think is going to be consistent through the year.
Yeah, I'm lower on Marvin Jones, and I think he's worth ownerable. I would say to not start him this week, but a guy that I definitely will start is Golden Tate. And if you've listened to this podcast or even, have listened to anything that I've said ever, which I hope that you possibly haven't, I hate Golden Tate. I don't want to own him ever. And I think that he's going to go the fuck off this week. Dating back through last year, the Falcons give up 110 yards per game to slot receivers, and that is absolute insanity. This game should be a shootout. Golden Tate is one of the best slot receivers in the league, I will say. And this game, this just on paper, it's one of those situations where, like, because with me, I stress about fantasy so much, Don, and I know that you do too, and everybody on this podcast does. But when I'm deciding who to play, and we kind of talked about this with, I forget who it was earlier, with logical decisions, it's like putting Golden Tate because it's a smart decision of putting Golden Tate. Like, if you're wrong, that's not your fault.
Right.
The numbers are there. It makes sense, and you can at least sleep well knowing that you did. Like, for instance, if you're Don and you played me in fantasy last week and you played Tyler Eifert over Delaney Walker and lost by 0.04 points, you should lose sleep for years to come. But if you put in Golden Tate and you lose by 0.04, then that's okay. Like, you did the right thing. It's the right decision. Right, Don? Do you agree with that you're stupid and everyone else is less stupid?
I'm sorry. My computer just broke up. You want to repeat all that again?
Don conveniently times that all the time. I think we both agree start Golden Tate. So let's get into Stafford right here. Stafford, had a way better week 1 than he did week 2. It's weird to see the Lions do great offensively on the road and Stafford not really, be great. He's kind of a situation, though, with similar to Drew Brees and Cam and Matt Ryan and those guys where he's significantly better at home, which this game is, than he is on the road. Where do you put Matt Stafford as far as streaming or if you own him starting this week, Don?
I would start him this week. I think it's going to be a shootout.
I do too. I think it's going to be a shootout for sure. I put him in quarterback 10 or 11 situation.
Yeah, I think he peaks top, within top 10.
Yeah, stop me if you think that any of these guys you don't like before him. I still like Carson Wentz more.
That's fair.
I still like Dak Prescott more.
Against that's fine. I'm okay with that too. I think I'd play Stafford over Dak, but
yeah, but I like Stafford more than the likes of Jameis,
yep,
Mariota, Wilson, guys like that, right? Yeah, you kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
So let's get into this backfield then. I'm just going to start off. I'm going to take the lead here that I think Theo Riddick is going to go off. If you own Theo Riddick, I think that he is a high-end running back 2 this week. He's going to have a huge fucking game.
This would be the game to play Theo Riddick.
Look at the Falcons in the first 2 games they played. They played the Bears week 1. That was Tariq Cohen's breakout game. We saw him. The Bears ran him down to the wire because Tariq Cohen was catching all out of the backfield. They are so vulnerable on pass-catching backs out of the backfield. It is ridiculous. Go to week 2. Ty Montgomery feasted on them. Absolutely feasted on them. This is where the Falcons are most vulnerable. They know it. The Falcons are without Vic Beasley. And even though Amir Abdullah is getting a huge workload as far as carries out of the backfield, Theo Riddick is the guy this week. Big time. Play him. He is a must start. I am sitting the likes of let's talk running back 2s here, Don. Throw me some names. I'm curious because I want to figure it out. I'm starting Theo Riddick over Dalvin Cook. I'm starting Theo Riddick over Jaquiz Rogers. I'm starting Theo Riddick over who else we got? Throw
I would play Theo Riddick even over like Buck Allen. I would play him over.
Absolutely.
We got definitely over Lamar Miller.
Yep, I think I'd rank Theo Riddick over Leonard Fournette, guys like that.
I was literally just about to say Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, PPR formats especially, he is a top 10 back to me this week. It's just the logic is there.
Yeah, I also think that I think both backs are startable though. I think that we saw what Ty Montgomery did to Atlanta last week. I think that Amir Abdullah being the main. I think that he's going to have back to value.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah hasn't been like completely sexy, but when we've been taught, like a theme of this podcast has been opportunity workload. He's gotten over 30 carries for the first 2 games. I think he's got more than 15 each one, and he's still involved in that passing game too. So while Theo Riddick is a huge play because he's their passing down back, Amir Abdullah still sees targets out of the backfield too. So I think that sort of trickles over to him.
Definitely.
So I agree with you there, Don. I really like both those backs going into this week. I like Riddick more than Abdullah, but I think Abdullah is a low-end running back too for me.
Yep.
So with that, you got anything else in this game? Probably not, I assume, right?
No, I'm going to go with Atlanta and hope that Detroit loses.
All right, I'm going to go with Detroit just because I don't think Atlanta is going to go 16-0, and on the road, I think that it's possible that Stafford steals this one late from them. We're going to go right over now to Tampa Bay at Minnesota, which is an even spread, straight up pick 'em. Let's give you a Bradford update. Bradford apparently was limited in practice. It was not really in front of the media, which is always a thing. Like, when guys are limited in practice, for instance, we'll get to Gronk later, but guys like this, like they'll practice doing like random drills, but then when the practice actually goes down, they're off the field. They're not going to practice Bradford all week, I would think, regardless.
Probably not.
So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's run right into this Vikings passing game here. We talked a little bit about it on the first part of this podcast. Thielen and Diggs, what are your thoughts?
I think it's all dependent on Bradford. I think that if Bradford is out, I'm still possibly rolling Diggs. Just because I think they got to throw to someone. I think Diggs would be the guy that they're just going to keep scrapping to. I think if Bradford is out, Thielen does not play.
Yeah, okay. See, my thought process is if Bradford is in, start Diggs, Thielen, and Rudolph.
Right.
If Bradford is out, all of them should sit. And the reason why is when I saw Case Keenum and his distribution target-wise to everybody, I may be off on one of the numbers here, but I saw 6 to Diggs, 6 to Thielen, 6 to fucking Laquan Treadwell. No bueno on that shit. If Bradford is not the quarterback here, I want no part of it. Any of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm still going Diggs, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't feel great about it if I was you either.
And a fuck no on Rudolph if Bradford's not in.
Yeah. I'm saying I don't want any Viking except for potentially Dalvin Cook if Bradford doesn't go. And then I will say Bradford does go. I'm down with all the standard guys that you would play. Thielen, Diggs, they're all good.
Agreed.
We haven't seen a lot of Tampa Bay to really gauge their defense, but Minnesota's at home and they play significantly better there, like most teams do. Also, just the fact that Case Keenum threw, and not even Case Keenum, but any quarterback, he threw the ball 37 times last week. And Diggs and Thielen only got 6 targets each.
Yeah.
I don't like that. That's a red flag right there.
Making a fair point.
Yeah, so Dalvin Cook, I mean, what are your thoughts there? I put him as like a mid-running back too.
Yeah, I think he's a solid RB2. I think if you have him, you're playing him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all you really have to say there. Don't own Latavius Murray anymore.
Nope.
Jerick McKinnon is a better own than Latavius Murray, and both of them are not really worth owning. I'll say that. Let's run over to the Bucs here. Jaquiz Rodgers. The clock is a fucking ticking on his value, Don. You playing him this week on the road at Minnesota?
Ooh. Do you have him? Yeah. I think he's a low-end RB2. But I'm not – yeah, I would say he's a low-end RB2. I'd play him.
Yeah, he's getting the bulk of the carries, which I like. He didn't really do much with that like 19 or 20 carry workload that he had, but he is a pass-catching back. Seeing like Peyton Barber is not sweet when you are trying to do this, but I could totally see that like vulturing a touchdown there. But again, I think Jaquiz Rodgers is good. You're going to have to talk yourself out of playing him, I feel like, more. And if that's the case, then just do it, you know?
Definitely.
I kind of like him. That's just me, but especially what's up?
No, yeah. I just think he's still playable.
Yeah. Anybody that's questioning it, they'll be talking themselves out of it, and I think that right there is a you may have better options, but I like it. The workload is there. In that passing game, what are your thoughts on Jameis? Not really a huge.
I'm not playing Jameis.
Yeah, you're not playing Jameis. I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
It wasn't a good start for last week against Chicago. You're going against Minnesota at Minnesota. They have a better defense than Chicago.
Yeah, at Minnesota too. Tell me if you disagree with any of this. Over Jameis, I'm starting Carson Wentz. I'm starting I don't want to say Jay Cutler, but I might be starting Jay Cutler over him.
Against the Jets, I would play the Miami Dolphins quarterback.
Yeah, I'm playing the Dolphins quarterback over Jameis. I'm playing Russell Wilson or Jameis.
I'm probably gonna go Russell Wilson over Jameis.
I think I would too, but it's like by a hair. But that tells you where we're at on this. Right. So that's it right there. As far as the pass catchers, Mike Evans is a must start, right, Don?
Yep.
As far as the tight ends, if you were a guy that wanted to get cute with O.J. Howard and got pumped that he caught a pass, him and Cameron Brate are like splitting the snaps. Just don't do it. Avoid this shit at all costs.
Yeah, no.
And then the only other guy that's really relevant would be Deshaun Jackson. What are your thoughts here? He got some decent targets in this game.
I mean, he got 7 targets, which is nice. I don't think I'm playing him. I wouldn't be mad at you if you're like if you're like a 3 receiver league and you got a flex and you need to play him because the targets are there. I just don't think Jameis is going to have that good of a game is why I would say him.
Yeah, I'm going to do something that I say about Deshaun a lot, and it's definitely like thinking way too much, but fuck it. Is that like if your team is in a situation where you're like a little banged up or you got guys that have bad matchups, like say you had like, a Jordan Howard and DeMarco Murray or something where you're making some running back 2 plays that you don't really love, that's when it's good to play Deshaun Jackson because he can hit that home run for you.
Right.
If you're a guy that you're like, I have a bunch of matchups and like I'm going to roll out Russell Wilson still or like Mariota I'm sticking with or, just something, or you're streaming a quarterback, that's when Deshaun Jackson can work into your flex wide receiver 3 situation where you're like, you know what, it's worth it to take the risk that he hits the home run. Yeah, because that may be the only way that I win this week.
Just throw $1,000 on red and hope it hits.
Exactly. That exact sort of situation is that if you're thinking that like, hey, my team is very average both on matchup and health, then like you got to go upside guys. And Deshaun Jackson, regardless of matchup, regardless of team, whatever that dude does in the NFL, he will always be a dude that at any point could catch a long touchdown.
Definitely.
So with that being said, Don, pick this game.
I'm going Minnesota at home.
I'm going to go Tampa Bay just because whatever on the Vikings. Let's get into Houston at New England. This is something we got to talk about pretty in depth. New England is favored by 13.5. Holy shit. Let's talk about Gronk. Gronk said that his groin is nothing serious, but he didn't practice Wednesday. He was slightly increased in his workload Thursday. I hear you giggling at Gronk saying the groin is nothing serious.
Yeah.
But he slightly increased his practice workload Thursday. He says it's not a big deal. This just screams game time decision for me.
I think he's going to play.
I do too. And let's get this out of the way.
With all the rest of the injuries, he's going to probably play if he's even like 65% or more.
Right.
And if that's the case,
even if it's in a decoy capacity, I was just going to ask, and you answered. If Gronk is ever active, you're playing him. That's the bottom line. Brady, same deal. You're playing Brady. Fuck whatever people say about the Texans defense. You're playing Brady. So let's get into the nitty gritty of this shit. Chris Hogan was banged up after that big game that a lot of us predicted going into that week. But he practiced in limited fashion. Danny Amendola also back at practice this week after that concussion issue. So what is your thought process on these secondary receivers now? We also saw Philip Dorsett work into the mix, but does Amendola's presence scare you on all these guys?
If Amendola's in, I think that really takes back Chris Hogan quite a bit. And I think that Amendola would be the guy with probably the most receptions out of all of them.
Yeah, I agree. Where if Amendola's in, I think there's a lot better spot start, guaranteed workload receivers that you could get. And Walsh talked about on the last podcast when he said that like James White should still be getting these targets, and he did last week. And I think that James White better flex. But like if you're playing Chris Hogan or Amendola, which you probably wouldn't be, but if you are, they're in your flex region. Yep. So James White's a better flex play there for sure.
I would say so as well.
Yeah, so let's roll into this backfield then. James White, I put him in a PPR format situation. Running back 3, maybe flex worthy. I do like his potential target share. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, I was with James White. I have in one league. I was actually in debate with him and Sammy Watkins. I put James White in today, and then I was like, at game time decision, Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins probably got me flex value in a PPR league. So I think James White is right there at flex. I think him and Gillislee are the ones that you for sure know that you're going to have like at least a decent floor with and get some points out of them versus the rest of the running backs where you don't know if Rex Burkhead is going to catch that touchdown or not. I think these guys are more of your safer picks and should be in your lineup to play.
For sure. And since we're recording this in the third quarter right now of the Rams-Niners game, to put it into context, Sammy Watkins right now has 4 catches for 92 yards. And unless James White were to score a touchdown, I think that's like right about where I would put him anyway. So that's a good decision. So, he kind of gets there. Let's talk about Mike Gillislee because Rex Burkhead was banged up and he caught the touchdown. But regardless of his injury status, which I'm not fully sure of, I wouldn't play him, so let's just talk about Mike Gillislee because that's all we really got here.
Mike Gillislee is the LeGarrette Blount of this year. I mean, you're going to hope that he's on in the red zone, and if so, he's probably going to rush in for a touchdown. He's already got 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks, so he's not going to get you a whole lot of yardage, but they're definitely going to, on the goal line, and you're probably going to get a touchdown out of him.
Yeah, Gillislee to me is a desperation play if you absolutely have to, which I'm in a league where I absolutely have to. You're hoping for a touchdown, that's it. Houston is not the best defense to hope for that against. That's really all I have to say there. It's not the worst play in the world, but you literally are banking on the touchdown because the dude is not factored into the passing game whatsoever. Let's flip it over to the Texans here, Don. There's really only 1, maybe 2 or 3 guys to talk about. Let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins first. Let me ask you this question. Are you sitting DeAndre Hopkins this week?
Against New England? brings. I'd still play Hopkins, even it's New England. Yeah, I'm still gonna play Hopkins. New England has shown some holes in their defense this year. I know that they always take away your best player, but I still think that Hopkins is going to be a very low end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. But I'm still going with him.
Yeah, I would say when I thought about this question myself, I had the exact reaction that you did, like, yeah, do it. Because the volume is there. That target share is crazy. You can't ignore that. The Texans are going to get blown out.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is going to have a terrible game. Rookie quarterbacks in New England against Bill Belichick are 0-8 with 5 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. I'm not expecting a lot from Hopkins, but what I am expecting is double-digit targets. And that enough is – I don't know how it's going to go, but to me, that's like a fucking go for it.
Definitely.
Other than that, the only real other guys that you're going to potentially play here are Lamar Miller. We saw Deontay Foreman come back into the fold as people expected that he would. He looked a lot better than Lamar Miller. What are your thoughts on these guys? I say sit both hard. Dude, Lamar Miller blows.
Lamar Miller does blow.
Also, Sammy Watkins just caught a touchdown for you.
I know, which is great. Yeah, I'm going to say sit them both too. Especially like I'm in a league where I have Theo Riddick was my 4th running back that I took, and it's a full point PPR. Like I'm removing Lamar Miller, and I'm keep putting Theo Riddick in there, and I have McCaffrey in there too. So should be really a battle between McCaffrey and Lamar Miller, and I'm going to keep all those guys before Miller in there.
You're talking about the worst yards per carry ground and pound team in the NFL against the best team, possibly, theoretically, I should say, in the NFL. They're going to go up on them. The Texans are not going to be running the ball as much. It's a no bueno for me. If you have to play one, I'm picking Foreman.
That's fair.
All right, so with that, Don, let's pick this game.
Yeah, New England.
New England, hell yeah. Seattle at Tennessee. Tennessee is a 2.5-point favorite. Corey Davis already ruled out. Did I read that correctly, Don? He's injured, not going to play. I'm going to double-check that as I ask you some
you know what? I did not even check that. I believe he is out, though. Yeah, he did not practice. Won't play Sunday against the Seahawks. He is out.
Okay, cool. So DeMarco Murray, they say that he did not practice, but they do expect him to practice Friday, which is annoying as shit.
Yeah.
What do you make of this backfield at home against Seattle?
I think you probably see DeMarco Murray start the game. We have a better game.
Yeah, I'm all in on Derrick Henry this week. We just saw Carlos Hyde completely gut the Seahawks, which is sort of surprising, but still fucking.
Yeah.
As far as yards after carry in the NFL right now, Derrick Henry completely far and away leads the entire NFL with 3.6 yards after contact. I believe the next highest, and I'm not sure of who it is, but I think it's somewhere in the 2.8 to 2.6 range, and it's CJ Anderson or Chris Carson or something like that. But Derrick Henry is a beast. This is his backfield to take. Do not start DeMarco Murray, regardless of what the situation is. I've looked at some mainstream sites rankings that still put DeMarco Murray as running back 19 or 20 and Derrick Henry later on. Derrick Henry is going to get the workload here. He looks phenomenal.
Yeah. He looked good last year too. He
did.
They just had DeMarco in front of him. So
I think Derrick Henry is a mid to low running back 2, which means you should find your way into your lineup. DeMarco Murray, hold on to that shit. I hope you have both of them, but don't play DeMarco Murray whatsoever. There's better options out there.
Definitely.
So as we talk about Corey Davis, Don, Eric Decker, and pretty much a lot of the Titans receivers have looked relatively subpar. Are you starting any of these guys against Seattle?
No. I think if anyone's surprisingly going to have a good game, I think it's going to be Rashard Matthews.
Mm-hmm. I think it's possible. I'm not willing to bank on it. I also think Taywan Taylor, who started to get a little work last week as a speedster for the Titans, is worth owning, not starting. I'll be honest, the only Titan that I'm starting this week is Derrick Henry.
Sure.
Mariota, people are rightfully off him. Sorry, who was that had a big catch? People are rightfully off Mariota. Quarterbacks have not. I mean, there was Brian Hoyer against them last week, but Aaron Rodgers did not look great against them. Walsh fucking dropped Mariota in our league, which I don't think is the worst decision, but surprised the shit out of me. And he's fallen down into that streamer category, it seems.
Yeah.
I still think better days are ahead, but that's the only Titan I'm starting. You agree?
I'm actually starting Delaney Walker because I'm not playing Eifert again.
That's a good call.
I think Delaney Walker's still a startable tight end for you.
Yeah, no, that's my fault. I agree with that, Delaney Walker, especially with the tight end situation now. He's like tight end 6 or 7 going into the week for sure. So let's flip it over to Seattle. Jimmy Graham probably won't play, and something that's just I want to say that's hilarious about this is just that Jimmy Graham if you own Jimmy Graham, drop him. Jimmy Graham blows, and the best stat to show that is that Jimmy Graham got hurt last week, and then Luke Wilson, who everybody knows has like been a long-term like secondary tight end for them, came in and on 3 catches bested Jimmy Graham's season stats so far. So Jimmy Graham has 9 receiving yards on the year. Luke Wilson immediately had 3 catches for 23 yards. And it's like, wow, you are already a more serviceable fantasy tight end than Jimmy Graham with like 2 quarters of being the main guy.
Yeah.
Fuck that situation. The Titans defense isn't necessarily great, but Jimmy Graham shouldn't go. If he does, I don't give a shit.
No, I'm not playing him. We've already gone over the whole who you can stream for tight ends. Put Kobe Fleener in there before you're putting in.
For sure. So let's talk about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is kind of a victim of the old Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger situation where he is pretty fucking shitty on the road regularly.
Yeah.
Awful to start the year. A big part of it is not necessarily him, I think, but the Seahawks' abysmal O-line. You playing Russell Wilson this week?
I am not. I'm actually in my league. I have him and Mariota, and I'm putting Mariota in right now.
Wow, that's very interesting. I don't necessarily hate it, but that. I mean, that should show right there that you're playing a sophomore quarterback that's also been struggling against the Seahawks instead of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not down with Russell Wilson right now.
I like this. I like the likes of Deshaun Kaiser, Jameis Winston. All these guys more than Mariota this week. Russell Wilson this week. I apologize. Stafford, Wentz, all these dudes. So with that being said, let's get into that receiving core. Paul Richardson is a badass, let's say first. I know they talked about it previously, but did you see what happened in that game with him?
Paul Richardson, no.
So Paul Richardson dislocated his finger, and the bone of the finger actually broke through the skin like a compound fracture of his finger. And then he taped it up and went back into the game and caught that game-winning touchdown at the end of the game. So he's an absolute badass. He's not being targeted still as much as Doug Baldwin, even though he's been a little bit more productive, especially in week 2. But Tyler Lockett, as we kind of alluded to before, came in with 9 targets, the same amount of targets and catches as Doug Baldwin. So what are your thoughts going into Tennessee on these dudes here?
Yeah, I think the only one that's startable is Doug Baldwin. I think Tyler Lockett's someone you can look out for the season now that, Jermaine Kearse is out of there. That now really opens up Tyler Lockett a whole lot more. But, again, I'm down on Russell Wilson against Tennessee this week. I think the only pass catcher that you're really looking to play is Doug Baldwin.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Lockett had a top 30 week, but definitely don't bank on that shit. Something that's also funny really to bring up real quick is that the Seahawks traded away Jermaine Kearse to the Jets, and he has more touchdowns this year than their entire fucking team, which is really funny. So to jump into that backfield, Eddie Lacy shouldn't be owned. I think everybody probably knows that by now. Chris Carson is the dude. He's averaging like 2.8 yards, like I said, after contact like the other guys. He got like 20 carries. He got fed. He seems like that like 2015 like Thomas Rawls breakout. He's the guy to own there. He's a low-end running back too. Actually, maybe high-end running back too. I love him this week.
Yeah, that's cool. I think you should play him.
Yeah, start him for sure. So I think we kind of covered the Seahawks there, covered the Titans. You got anything else on these guys here?
No, that's it.
Pick it, bitch.
I'm going to go with Tennessee.
All right, I will go with Tennessee as well. And with that, me and Don are going to break for a live read and wrap this shit
This year, dominate your friends with free play-by-play fantasy football from BenchBoss. BenchBoss is the first play-by-play fantasy football game where you must think like the players and coaches on the field as you predict the outcome of every play. Earn rewards as you compete against friends and fans across the country. BenchBoss is currently recruiting beta testers, and we need you. Visit benchboss.tv to learn more and sign up today.
And welcome back. That was our advertiser there, BenchBoss, formerly known as View Pick. And me and Don have 3 more games to go here in the week 3 preview. I'm sorry, 4 more games? Yeah, 4 more games. And we're going to jump right into it. Cincinnati at Green Bay. Suck it, Vinny. Me and Don get to talk about Green Bay. Green Bay is a 9-point favorite. The Bengals absolutely blow. Let's go. Yeah, they blow so hard. Oh, my God. Vinny blows. The Bengals blow. Life is good.
Jay Cutler blows.
The Jay Cutler doesn't really blow, and then the Packers sort of blew last week. But we'll edit that out later. We'll tell Shrek to edit it out. Let's get into the Bengals here first. Eifert did not practice Thursday. The word is the Bengals do not expect him to play. For fantasy owners, that's probably just good to have clarity this early in the week. Right, Don? I mean, definitely. You're a two tight end owner, bitch. So you already got Delaney Walker.
Need options, bro. Yeah, instead of me having a stream, now I got Delaney Walker I could throw in there.
I'm so happy that we have a week where we cannot debate whether or not Andy Dalton is a streamer. Because even though the Packers defense sucks, fuck Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Andy Dalton has not thrown a TD yet.
Yeah, so let's jump right into the Bengals here. AJ Green, I think, is going to have a huge week, a must play. We saw not really anything as far as secondary receivers. Brandon LaFell works in the mix. John Ross hasn't really done much. He fumbled in his first touch and didn't see the field. As far as pass catchers, if Eifert is out, is anybody but AJ Green even worth starting?
No, definitely not. I mean, no one has scored a touchdown for them. So AJ
that's true. They don't have a touchdown.
It's pretty crazy.
You are correct, but here's one thing. Let's roll right into the backfield then. Here's something I'll say. So Walsh, crazily, and I hope Walsh listens to this, said to drop every single Bengals running back. And I will say that he said drop every Bengals running back for Buck Allen, but I'm just going to dictate this and sort of steer it toward my narrative of saying that Walsh is stupid, because I think that Joe Mixon's breakout week is this week. Bill Lazor takes over as offensive coordinator, and I think that they've kind of hinted at the fact that they want to have a feature role in that backfield. And while Joe Mixon has not looked impressive at all, I think that the Bengals, who absolutely suck, are just going to be like, what the fuck do we have to lose other than just feeding Joe Mixon the ball this entire time?
Well, you would think so, and especially against a really depleted Packers defense, as always. But again, this is another play that you have to have pretty big balls to decide that you're going to play Mixon this week in your fantasy lineup.
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't say the play Mixon necessarily, but I truly do think.
But don't be surprised, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that he's going to have a huge week. You're right. In the front 7 of the Packers, 2 of their 3 best players, excluding Clay Matthews, are hurt with Nick Perry out, and Mike Daniels probably not going to play. But I won't say to play Joe Mixon. Actually, you know what? Fuck it, man. I'm going to be so in on this that I'm going to say Joe Mixon should be in your lineup. It's definitely me being selfish and wanting to be right. But Joe Mixon is going to have at least 15 touches. And let's make a little bet that you don't have to really bet anything on, Don. But I'm going to go that Joe Mixon is going to have at least 15 touches, and he's going to have at least 90 yards and a touchdown.
90 yards and a touchdown.
90 yards and a touchdown. And when I say that, that's all-purpose yards, and it could be a receiving touchdown, whatever. I'm saying at least 90 yards and a touchdown and at least 15 touches.
All right.
Put it down, write it down, cement it, and then if I'm wrong, then just don't say anything to us at all and just accept that you listen to me and you're stupid for doing so.
Never knew you had such big balls, man.
Yeah, man, the balls are huge. Balls are huge here. They're clanking. I got to take 2 seats on planes, 1 for each ball. So I got obese balls.
Remind me not to sit next to you on the airplane.
Hell yeah, man. Unless you want to hold one of my balls, which you did this past week.
Nah, I'm good, dude.
Yeah, you may want to, regardless. Okay, so I think with the Bengals, that's all we really have. AJ Green's the only guy you should really be starting unless you're me and you're kind of drunk and you say to start Joe Mixon. Right? So let's roll over to the Packers here. Let's give some injury updates. So if you listen to Walsh and Vinny's podcast, they gave the correct Jordy Nelson news, but it wasn't updated that Jordy Nelson was questionable as shit, especially when they recorded that podcast on Tuesday. But right after that, Jordy has not missed a day of practice, and according to him, his quad is completely fine, and he expects to play.
Sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet. But what his role is not necessarily known. So before we get to the value of these guys, let's talk about Randall Cobb's injury. Randall Cobb was thought to have a shoulder injury. It's now been said that it's a chest injury. He did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. Not really sure what his potential availability is. What are your thoughts? Because Geronimo Allison, obviously, I think Devontae Adams is kind of set in his value, but Geronimo Allison stands to make the most of this potential situation with these guys out. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say with Geronimo Allison is I kind of think if it's Cobb that's out and we see a lot more Jordy, I think that you might see more Jeff Janis role that could take away from Geronimo Allison.
I get where you're coming from on that. I don't think it's true. I thought you were going to say something that I literally have written down, and it's that if Randall Cobb misses, then Geronimo Allison is extremely valuable. If Allison and Jordy both play, I'm sorry, if Cobb and Jordy both play, Allison has literally no value, obviously. If they both miss, I don't think you should start him still, but it's definitely
no. I don't think he's a play. I would think if it was Jordy that was out, Geronimo Allison takes a bigger role. But
see, because my thought process there is like when Jordy was out in the first quarter, why would Jeff Janis not be in the game over Allison, who was suspended for the first week? You know, like I felt like that was pretty indicative that Allison was the guy instead. But what I will say is now, what are your thoughts on this? If Cobb, I think Jordy's going to play, but if Cobb and Jordy are both out, what are your thoughts then?
Of playing Geronimo Allison? Yeah, I'm cool with playing Geronimo. I think Geronimo Allison would be, if that's the case, is a really good DFS play, and I would be cool, especially in maybe a 14-team league or 12-team of throwing him in a flex and hoping that Rodgers goes the fuck off, which we need him to do.
Yeah, we do. Montgomery's a surefire play. I'll say that if Randall Cobb is active, you got to play him. He's got 24 targets in 2 games. They've been feasting out of the slot with him. I like it.
They did say that they are going to lessen Ty Montgomery's carry share, whatever it is.
Interesting. I don't know if that trends lack of workload. You know, like I think he'll still see the field, but that is definitely worth noting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why they would. I didn't read that, and I don't know why they would say that after like a great game. But
I think they just don't want to. In the sense of he just did so much against Atlanta that maybe they're not trying to beat him up, but they did say that they might lessen it up, meaning maybe you'll see a little bit more Jamal Williams, but that doesn't mean you necessarily should worry about Ty Montgomery not being able to, be that low-end RB1 for you.
Yeah, I would say that means more that he'll get less carries, not less work, if that makes sense.
Right.
So with that being said, Rodgers is obviously a must-start. Last thing I'll say on the Packers is if you own Martellus Bennett, drop that shit real quick. He looked awful the last game. There's no reason for him to be playing. Richard Rodgers was a better tight end for them last week. Just get rid of Martellus Bennett. There's so many better options out there.
Yeah, he's making me miss Jared Cook, man.
For real. Which we'll get into in a second. But with that, I mean, you got really anything else on the Packers here?
That's about it.
Wait, the last thing I'll say, we should actually get into this. If Jordy is active, are you starting him?
Jordy, if he's playing.
Okay, you're right. I'm not even going to say anything else. There's no –
Cincinnati sucks. Jordy,
no overthinking.
If Jordy's playing, that's Rodgers' guy.
Yeah, I'm not even going to confuse people by getting into overthinking with it. So with that, I will pick the Packers. I assume you pick the Packers.
Go Pack, baby.
And a quick you suck, Vinny. So Kansas City Chiefs at LA Chargers. Let's go with the Chiefs first because they're easier shit to analyze. Kareem Hunt, Kareem Hunt forever. He's the reason that I am 8-0 in all my fantasy leagues. If you listen preseason, I own a shitload of share in Kareem Hunt's, and boy, am I horny.
You should be horny, dude. There's nothing actually more that I enjoy in the past 2 weeks than the
my horniness.
No, dude, no. I've already heard enough about your balls, dude. I don't need to hear more about your horniness. Have you seen the videos of a message from Kareem Hunt, and it's literally like a 2-second blurb of him just be like, "Should have started me, idiot." It's great.
Yeah. And then the next one,
my favorite thing.
After that, the next one that was that quick was just "You're welcome."
I love it. I can't wait to see the next week's. It's great.
They were great. Kareem Hunt could be the pick of any draft that happened, so start him. Jason Verrett for the Chargers may be out again. It doesn't really matter. You're starting Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce anyway, right?
Definitely.
No really other chief, receiver, running back to discuss. Alex Smith. Can you really justify not playing him for anybody that is picking him up to do so?
No, I think Alex Smith against the Chargers is still a safe bet to play.
Yeah, efficient as shit. And if Jay Cutler did okay against him, then yeah, I hope so, right? I mean,
yep.
It's got. So let's just move on from the Chiefs right there and get into the Chargers. Melvin Gordon had an abysmal week last week, only 9 carries, not really his fault. I think you're still rolling him out there against the great Chiefs front seven, right?
Yep, you're still rolling him.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, I think, is obviously a fine play. Not really much to discuss there. Tyrell Williams, I think Tyrell Williams is a great flex option this week, PPR or standard.
Yeah, I'm down with playing Tyrell Williams.
Yeah, his target share has been there, and actually last week 2, he led all wide receivers and tight ends and everything, including Keenan Allen, in snaps. He's been on the field a lot. He's a red zone target. I see this as being a big week for him, possibly.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like that. Phillip Rivers, how do you feel on him? I put him.
I mean, if you have him, I'm okay with it. I would probably.
Let me throw 3 names at you. Rivers or Stafford?
I'm playing Stafford over Rivers this week.
Rivers or Alex Smith?
I'm playing Alex Smith.
Rivers or Russell Wilson?
Oh, Rivers.
Okay, so that kind of hovers in. I mean, we've talked about quarterback value enough to where you kind of know where he falls for us there. Rest of the Chargers, we saw Antonio Gates set that all-time touchdown record by a tight end last week. That was pretty sweet. Flip side of that, though, Hunter Henry. I'm getting down on Hunter Henry. Caught all 7 of his targets last week. Him and Gates are still kind of splitting the snap share, but in that tight end pool of Jared Cook, Charles Clay, Kyle Rudolph, fucking everyone else that we've talked about, he's right there, right?
Yep. I would say so. He's got the targets. Rivers is going to sling the pig, so.
There you go. I like that. So with that, Don, who you picking in this shit?
I'm going with Kansas City.
I'm going to go with Kansas City as well. They're the best team in the AFC right now. Oakland Raiders at Washington Redskins. Raiders are favored by 3. Jordan Reed, let's get into the Redskins first. Oh, Sammy Watkins may have gotten you.
Yeah, touchdown / possible fumble.
Nah, not a fumble. He was down already. If anything, he was down before the goal line. But regardless, people don't care. Jordan Reed, who is hurt for eternity, actually limited in practice and did practice on Thursday today. Rob Kelly also says that he will definitely play, but will wear a protective pad, which is just so jokes.
Yeah, it is a joke. I think Chris Thompson is your guy that you would play in the backfield of the Redskins.
Yeah, Samaje Perine got a huge workload out of that Rob Kelly injury. But if Rob Kelly is active, you shouldn't play him. That's a touchdown too, Don, by the way. You shouldn't play him. And I wouldn't be playing Perine or Rob Kelly. I honestly wouldn't love fully Chris Thompson, even though it's if Rob Kelly's active, I don't love it. I may be wrong in saying so, but I just think that don't buy in on that last week production too hard.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Thompson's their returner too, though. So if you have, if you do return yards, I think Chris Thompson's an okay play.
That's true. And now that I look at it, this should be a pretty much shootout of a game on Sunday Night Football. So I guess it's not the worst play in the world, but
yeah.
I just don't play him thinking that what happened last week is something that's going to happen. Play him because there's other situations in your lineup.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think he's the best backfield play for sure. So one thing I want to say, and like Vinny and Walsh talked about this, Terrell Pryor. What are you doing with this dude?
I'm still playing Terrell Pryor.
He sucked.
Yeah.
He sucked.
Yeah, but Kirk Cousins has kind of sucked too, though.
Okay, you know what? I was testing you just to not be biased on what I was saying, and I agree with that you still got to roll him out there. I think this is the breakout for Kirk Cousins. And part of what we said about Cam Newton in the last podcast, if Kirk Cousins doesn't do it this week, then it's over.
Kirk had a really bad game the past 2 games, but Terrell Pryor, first week, I mean, he had a shit ton of targets. Yeah, he had 4 targets this past week, but they sucked.
The only thing that concerns me is that being in LA, I watched that whole Redskins game, and when Kirk was sucking, it was like I was like, pass the ball, but they were running the ball so effectively. So it was like hard to be like, no, don't run, pass, because they were just getting it done on the ground.
Right.
But then Rob Kelly got hurt, and then it was like, okay, maybe now they'll throw more, and they just still were running the ball. Granted, they were running the ball so well, so it's hard to really like judge it on that. You're right that I'm still starting Pryor. What are your thoughts on Crowder?
Crowder, I'm not playing.
He's a little bit banged up, if I'm not mistaken. I got to call Walsh out. Got to call Walsh out because I promised that I would, and it's an isolated situation that he can get me back on later. But on the last podcast, Walsh said, since they snuck into our Week 3 preview shit, Walsh said that he's starting Jamison Crowder in a good matchup over Jordy Nelson, and then in our league, Don dropped Jamison Crowder today.
Wow.
So what are you doing, Walsh? Are you trying to steer all of us wrong and giving fake info to better yourself?
I don't think Walsh is invested in his own word.
Right. Is Walsh a bitch that doesn't back up what he says, or what's up? So he's going to say that Redskins, in Walsh's defense, I'll say that I called him out on it privately, and he said that this is a good matchup, but he doesn't like Crowder going forward. And then he was also like, my team's so good, I don't need Crowder, blah, 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 all this shit.
We just turned that private conversation to real fucking public.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to upload our entire text message conversation over the past 6 months to the Let's Talk Fantasy Football app. Down.
Yeah, this is going to be more viral than Kevin Durant's Twitter issue.
There you go. But all right, I'm kind of down with Crowder. There's probably better options. Don't love it, but it's a good matchup. If you have to, and you're kind of torn between a couple guys, go with the better matchup. Crowder does have a good one.
Definitely.
But with that being said, if Jordan Reed is active, are you playing him now?
So here's the thing, though. So Jordan Reed is Monday night, right? So
Sunday night.
Oh, it is Sunday night. I'm an idiot. Which gives you, I guess, Monday night. That's the only thing. So that leaves you one more matchup for tight ends. Follow it closely. See where you got for Sunday. If he's playing, you're definitely throwing him in there.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. I think he's going to be active, and I think you got to play him regardless, but definitely not sweet. So on the Raiders side of the ball, Derek Carr's a must start, right? I mean, the Raiders might be one of like the least need. Like you don't need to analyze them at all. It's like Crabtree, Cooper.
Cooper. I mean, you want to talk about the whole Crabtree Cooper, where Crabtree just took like 3 touchdowns, like possibly the number 1 receiver right now there.
Right, but then week 1, Cooper was getting all the red zone targets. So I think both of them are like top 15 wide receiver plays for sure.
They both have to be played.
Yeah, especially in this game, they both have to be played. Derek Carr needs to be played. He's averaging over like 21 fantasy points per game in the first 2 games. That's the Jets and the Titans, but whatever, the Redskins aren't too much better. I'm not factoring in Josh Norman to Crabtree or Cooper at all.
I would play both of them.
Yeah, so let's talk about Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch shall feast. The Raiders fullback is a little bit banged up. Richard there. Whatever, doesn't matter. Play Marshawn Lynch. That dude was and flapping those dreadlocks all over the place last week.
He got hyped.
Mm-hmm. His dreadlocks during that dance looked like – actually, you know what? I'm not going to make that perverted genital joke about our fantasy matchup, Don. It's not right for the public. So let's just move on to Jared Cook. We talked about him kind of – we alluded to him in the tight end streaming pool.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, he'll be a decent streamer this week.
You've heard it. So pick the game, Don. What you got?
I've got Oakland.
I'm going to go with the Washington Redskins at home because I think these teams are just evenly matched. And again, it's like Raiders won't go 16-0. Redskins got to right the ship, so I'm picking them. Last game, Monday Night Football game, Dallas at Arizona. Dak Prescott was banged up going into the week, practiced fully today. You're starting him, right?
Yeah, I mean, come on. What is that, his first bad game in his second season in?
Oh, well, dude, I'm thinking he got 16 points against Denver. That's it. I'm fine. Like, that's your hardest matchup. Again, you're going to throw 16 points against Denver. I'm cool with it. You're in. So let's go.
Playing. And Arizona sucks this year. You know.
Yeah. So let's talk about the receiving core. Dez Bryant. What do you think about Dez Bryant? He's going to be he's going to be shadowed by Patrick Peterson. And actually, you know what? I'm going to take the lead here. I have some stats on this. So first off, it's crazy. And not very, great matchups for the Cardinals. Or I should say they were good defensive matchups for the Cardinals. Don, guess how many yards Patrick Peterson covered receivers have total this year?
How many?
11.
Wow.
11 total yards he has given up through the air. But in the last 2 games that the Cowboys have played the Cardinals, Patrick Peterson has completely shadowed Dez, and in each game, Dez has caught a touchdown. So what the fuck do you make of that?
I don't know. That's bizarre because Dez has been shown to be, stopped by higher-end cornerbacks like Janoris Jenkins. So you would think Patrick Peterson would be able to. If that's the case and you want to go and keep running with the stat line, I say it's just a short yard red zone play, and I still don't think Dez is going to do too much.
Right, but you got to play him, right?
I would still play him.
I think you got to play him just because of where he ranks as far as, your team and receiver. And then what I would look at is like, oh, shit. Like, for instance, week 1 when we were saying don't play Alshon Jeffrey because he's going against Josh Norman or any sort of cornerback wide receiver matchup. But then you look and you're like, hey, here's an elite corner against an elite receiver. And then you're like, but wait, he's caught a touchdown in each of his last 2 matchups against him, even though Patrick Peterson's dominant. Granted, also Patrick Peterson covered, T.Y. Hilton against Jacoby Brissett throwing. And
right.
I can't think of the first game that they had, but it was a similarly bad
offense. Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. So like Marvin Jones, he was probably covering. He's not covering in the slot. So it's not incredibly impressive. I think you got to play Dez.
Yeah, you're still playing.
Yeah. With that, I think the only other guys you're playing we're going to talk about right now, do you think Ezekiel Elliott you're playing, right? Obviously. Yeah, don't be afraid at all. And then is Jason Witten for real?
I kind of like about Jason Witten. I think that Dak really finds him as a safety blanket. And, I mean, Jason Witten couldn't really get any slower than he's already been because he's always been slow, but really good route runner. He had a lot of passes thrown to him against us.
Yeah.
I think Jason Witten, at least for the first half of this year, is very real.
Yeah, I'd say for the tight end decisions that you have to make, too, with the injuries right now, every borderline tight end that we've brought up, I think he's a better play than probably.
Definitely.
There's no reason to not.
Definitely.
So with that, I mean, another thing I'll say, this is not something you should bank on unless you're playing daily fantasy, but I think Terrence Williams is going to have a huge week this week. I think it's just going to be that 1 week that, how there's that 1 week every year where Terrence Williams catches like multiple touchdowns.
Yeah, pisses off everyone.
That week, I don't think it's anything you should bank on, but just the Cardinals defense is sneaky good with Matthew in the middle and Peterson covering Dez. That like I just see Terrence Williams like having something going on. I'm just making a little selfish call.
Yeah.
Flip over to the Cardinals.
What do you think about this? I'm assuming by you skipping is not playable, but I think it is. Cole Beasley, he's kind of had back to a Cole Beasley of past before last year, but he still did get 8 targets last week against the Denver Bronco defense. What do you really expect for Cole Beasley going forward?
I think if you picked Cole Beasley up, you know why you did, and it's worth holding on to him through this week if it's not great. And he could be the guy that is the benefactor of what I'm talking about instead of Terrence Williams. But definitely don't throw him into your lineup this week. And I think that he's, certainly a fine wide receiver 6 for the context that we're putting.
Yeah, that's
for
fair.
Sure. In PPR formats especially. So to flip it over to the Cardinals, the Cardinals backfield, you touching any of it, man? I mean, fucking what?
Now they're saying that Chris Johnson's load is to increase, but do you really want to be playing Chris Johnson Like, I'm assuming you don't.
I don't want to touch any of it. Hold on to drop Kerwin Williams hard. Yep. Hold on to Andre Ellington if he's your last running back in a PPR format to see if it's worth it going through this week. This should be the last week, and you'll know after this. Chris Johnson, there's better options, man. I don't like it.
I'm not about that either. I mean, we'll see, but I mean, Chris Johnson's old, dude. I'm not about it.
I think we can both agree that none of them are startable.
I'm not playing any of them.
Maybe one of them is ownable, maybe. And if you want to take a flyer on Chris Johnson or Andre Ellington in PPR, fine. But please don't start any of them.
Right.
To get to the pass catchers here, Fitzgerald was underwhelming in that whole John Brown injury situation. They played against the Colts, which is a great matchup. And it was weird because J.J. Nelson is leads all wide receiver in yards right now. And Jaron Brown got, if I'm not mistaken, like 14 targets.
Yeah. Like every once in a while, though.
What are your thoughts on this whole situation? I mean, are you playing any of these guys this week against Dallas? Because Dallas secondary.
I'm not playing Jaron Brown. I would play J.J. Nelson if he's healthy. The thing is, he's got a hamstring issue that he's working out, and he hasn't really been I think if he's a go, I think he's a cool play. I think Fitzgerald you could possibly play in the flex, but that's about it. I'm not going to and trying to play Jaron Brown or John Brown. Jaron Brown, he's going to get that every once in a while. Anyway.
Yeah, people talk about Carson Palmer as a streamer too, and I don't love it because there's so many better options. I would even take a possible like Sam Bradford situation.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long completion for the Niners there for Garcon, but I didn't mean
that. Just had a really nice catch.
I think I'm playing Fitzgerald and J.J. Nelson this week. Until J.J. Nelson doesn't, I think it's fine to get him into your lineup if you have like a 3 wide receiver league. Like it's possible, like if you got like a, you got it's only 2 wide receivers in your lineup and you got to go like, Odell and, Alshon Jeffrey, then like don't play J.J. Nelson necessarily, but
right.
But I think that J.J. Nelson and Larry Fitzgerald don't give up on just yet. These games, That's what it is. They're the only 2 guys I'm touching on the entire Cardinals team. Carson Palmer, there's better options.
Yep.
With that, Don, who are you picking in this game?
I'm going Dallas.
I'm going Dallas too. Double down on that. That is all we got for the games. Let's just bang out some reader questions here real quick, Don, and then catch the end of this Thursday night game. My buddy Sam, Nautical Sam, that lives in the marina on the boat. I didn't put this thing in, but he sent me a last-minute question, Don.
Let's hit Nautical Sam.
He's a new listener. Nautical Sam's the dude.
We appreciate it, Nautical Sam.
He says Trevor Siemian over Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I say hell yes. He's a little bit shying away, I think, from giving up on Mariota, but keep him on your bench, Sam. But play Siemian if you can get him. It's a better matchup. He also just doubles down. Half-point PPR flex decision, Derrick Henry, Alshon Jeffrey. This is a much harder question.
I would go Alshon Jeffrey.
I think I would go Alshon Jeffrey too, regardless of the Janoris Jenkins situation. Derrick Henry, I still think is going to have a big week, but in PPR, he's still going against the Seahawks. That's the right play.
Yep.
Let's jump into the rest of these questions here. Jordan Hudson emailed us saying, I've got 2 or 3. Not sure what that means, but we're gonna figure it out. He said, should I start LeGarrette Blount or James White as running back 2? Let's just hammer that out.
James
White.
White.
Agreed, James White. Should I start Larry Fitzgerald, J.J. Nelson? Oh, he's got 2 or 3 questions, I see. All right. Should I start Larry Fitzgerald, J.J. Nelson, or Martavis Bryant at wide receiver 2? And which one of those in the flex?
Oh, so he's got to play 2 of them?
Playing 2 of them. I'm saying Martavis Bryant is a definite. You agree?
Martavis Bryant, definitely. And I would carefully have to watch between J.J. Nelson and what he's got with his hamstring injury, which could kind of lean me towards actually Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay, I'm going to completely agree with Don. If J.J. Nelson is full practice on Friday, possibly go with him, but Larry Fitzgerald is probably a safer play, higher floor. Last, Tom Brady or Derek Carr? Crazy question. Just fuck Tom Brady. I gotta say it. I can't say no Tom Brady.
Yeah, you got to go Tom Brady.
Derek Carr's been so great though, but I gotta go Tom Brady. All right,
go Timmy.
So on Instagram, we got a question from ZBundy16. What do you guys all think of Carson in Seattle? We kind of talked about him already, but he's the feature back there. Seattle features backs usually do well. Don, you got anything else on that?
No, I mean, I think we hit that quite a few times.
He's a running back too.
Podcast, so, yep.
Yeah. From Anthony on the email, in my standard league, I want to start Rashard Higgins or Emmanuel Sanders. Who should I go? Indianapolis has the worst defense in the league, but the Browns don't have a great quarterback. I disagree a little bit. Deshaun Kaiser could be fine. Who are you picking over Emmanuel Sanders and Rashard Higgins?
I'm still taking Emmanuel Sanders.
I think I'm going Sanders too. I've expressed love for Higgins, but I think like right below Sanders would be where I would kind of put the line. From Mitchell Seeger on Twitter, I need to start a running back. Burkhead or Tevin Coleman. His other option at flex is Kendall Wright.
Tevin Coleman.
I'm going Tevin Coleman too. Kendall Wright and Burkhead both banged up. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Tevin Coleman, the healthiest of them. Hopefully you can get some better situation out of that. From Chad W on Twitter, Cutler, Winston, or Simeon. We kind of like talked around this, but this is a more specific question. Who you got? Cutler, Winston,
I got Trevor Simeon. Trevor Simeon is a hot hit.
Yeah, I'm going Simeon with that all day. 3 more questions, Don. Cam Newton or Big Ben this week? Standard scoring. Ben at – but go on.
Ben is away. Panthers are 2-0. Going with Cam.
Cam against the Saints. You got to. I agree with that, Don. Next question. Need a start at wide receiver, running back, and flex. Jordy Nelson. Here's what I'll say real quick, Don. You're looking at this question as well, right?
Yep.
For your wide receiver, he's got his wide receivers are Jordy Nelson, J.J. Nelson, Diggs, Higgins, Tate, Richardson. I'm just going to say Jordy right there.
Jordy.
So his running backs are
Carson,
Buck Allen, Jordan Howard. I'm going Buck Allen.
I'm going Buck Allen as well.
Buck Allen too. Of the flex of all those guys, I'll probably throw Golden Tate in the mix because we talked about how much we love him.
Just fucking sweep it, bro.
Sweep it right there. Last question from Lon on Twitter. Ajayi missed practice Wednesday. Is Kenyon Drake the handcuff to own for him?
If you really want to cuff him, I guess. I don't know. I just don't know how much Kenyon Drake's really going to do with that offense, even if Ajayi was out.
I completely agree with Don that, yes, Kenyon Drake would be the handcuff to own, but that does not mean that you need to own him. I think that there's better running back situations on your waiver that Kenyon Drake is not a guy where you're like, hey, I'm worried about Ajayi. I'm going to pick this dude up, and he's going to be the guy I start if Ajayi misses. Ajayi will not miss, and look elsewhere, man.
Definitely.
All right. Well, Don, you got anything else on this podcast, man? We hammered this shit out.
No, just remember my weekly update of Ajayi 1,800 all-purpose yards this year, even with no ligaments in that knee.
It's good to remind the listeners that weekly Don is wrong. Right?
I don't know, man. You've been doing a lot of echoing of everything I've been saying, so.
I know I have. But with that, I am Matt Rogers. Don is the DON.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening to the podcast, and we will see you next week.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.